Found my girlfriend's study group was actually her hooking up with my roommate for 6 months. The worst part? They were doing it in our apartment while I was at work. I thought I was going crazy when things kept moving around. Turns out I wasn't paranoid, just stupid. Here's how I caught them and what happened next. So this happened last month and I'm still processing everything. Me, 26M, and my girlfriend Sarah, 24F, have been together for almost 2 years. We don't live together, but I have this roommate Jake who's been my buddy since college. Sarah's been really busy with her advanced calculus study group every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 6 months. She'd always come over after these sessions around 9 p.m., sometimes looking kind of flustered, but I figured math was just stressing her out. You know? She'd be all tired and disheveled, hair messed up, makeup smudged. I'd make jokes about how calculus was kicking her ass and she'd just laugh it off. Here's where it gets weird. I started noticing little things around my apartment were different when I'd come home from work. Like my couch cushions would be arranged differently, or there'd be 2 glasses in the sink when I only used one that morning. Sometimes I'd find random bobby pins on my bedroom floor, which was strange because Sarah only came over in the evenings. Jake always said he didn't have anyone over, and I trusted the guy. We'd been friends for 8 years, lived together for 3, never had any issues. The air freshener in my living room would be moved from the coffee table to the kitchen counter. My shower would be wet when I got home even though I showered in the morning. Little stuff that made me think I was losing my mind. I actually started wondering if I was having memory problems or something. I brought it up to Sarah a few times, asking if she'd been coming over earlier than usual. She'd always say no, maybe Jake had friends over and forgot to mention it. But when I'd ask Jake, he'd just shrug and say he was at work or the gym all day. Last Tuesday, I got sent home early because I was feeling sick. Had this pounding headache and nausea. Thought maybe I was coming down with something. Pulled into my parking spot around 2 p.m. and saw Sarah's car. Thought that was strange since her study group was supposed to be at the library until 8. For a second I got excited, thinking maybe she'd come over to surprise me or take care of me since I was sick. But something felt off. Her car was parked in the back of the lot, not in her usual spot near the front, like she was trying to hide it. I walked up to my apartment and heard sounds. You know what kind of sounds? Coming from Jake's room. My heart just dropped into my stomach. At first I thought maybe he was watching porn or something, but then I heard a female voice, a voice I recognized. I stood there for like 5 minutes just listening, hoping I was wrong, hoping my brain was playing tricks on me because I was sick. But the sounds kept coming. Moaning, bed creaking, and worst of all, hearing my girlfriend's voice saying things she'd never said to me. I wasn't wrong. My hands were shaking as I opened the door real quiet. The sounds got louder, clearer. Could hear Sarah moaning Jake's name, telling him how good he felt. Stuff that made me physically sick to my stomach. I literally had to lean against the wall to keep from falling over. Just stood there like an idiot for another minute, listening to my girlfriend and my best friend going at it in the next room. Part of me wanted to bust down the door immediately, but I was frozen. Like my brain couldn't process what was happening. Finally, I knocked on his bedroom door real loud. 3 hard knocks that echoed through the apartment. The scrambling and whispering that followed was probably the worst sound I've ever heard. Suddenly, everything went quiet except for frantic whispers and the sound of people throwing clothes on. I could hear Sarah's voice, panicked, asking what they should do. Jake telling her to calm down. Sarah came out first, clothes all messed up, hair completely disheveled, lipstick smeared. She was trying to button her shirt, but her hands were shaking so bad she couldn't manage it. The second she saw my face, she started crying. Not just tears, full on sobbing. Jake came out shirtless about 30 seconds later, holding his t-shirt in his hands. The coward couldn't even look at me, just stared at his feet while Sarah cried and tried to explain. We had this awkward confrontation where Sarah's crying, Jake's apologizing, and I'm just standing there feeling like the biggest fool alive. Sarah kept saying, I can explain, but honestly, what was there to explain? I'd heard everything through the door. That's when the real truth came out. Found out they'd been hooking up for 6 months. Basically half our relationship. Every Tuesday and Thursday when I was at work. Sarah's study group was just code for coming over to screw my roommate. The worst part? Jake told me they'd been planning to tell me, eventually, like they were doing me some kind of favor by letting me live in ignorance while they used my apartment as their personal sex hotel. I told them both to get out. Sarah kept trying to explain, saying it just happened one day and then kept happening, that she never meant for it to go on so long. Jake just kept muttering, "I'm sorry, man," over and over like that was supposed to fix anything. I couldn't hear any of it over the ringing in my ears. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. Jake packed a bag and left that night. Sarah begged me to let her stay so we could talk, but I couldn't even look at her without feeling sick. Now I'm sitting here alone in this apartment wondering how I missed all the signs. The weird schedule changes, her being distant during sex, Jake acting strange around me for months, always finding excuses to leave when Sarah came over in the evenings. I feel so stupid. The more I think about it, the more obvious it becomes. Sarah used to text me constantly throughout the day, but that stopped around 6 months ago. She said she was just busy with school. Jake used to hang out with me and watch TV in the evenings, but he started spending more time in his room. Said he was tired from work. I trusted them both completely. Never even occurred to me that they might be together. Why would it? These were the two people I was closest to in the world. Anyone else been through something like this? How do you even begin to trust people again? Update 1. Holy crap. Thanks for all the support, everyone. Didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Got over 500 comments and my inbox is flooded. Reading all your stories and advice has been helping me process this whole mess. A lot of you asked for updates, so here's what's happened since. Sarah has been texting and calling nonstop for 3 weeks. I finally blocked her number yesterday after she sent me this long essay about how it just happened, and she never meant to hurt me. Like, how does something just happen for 6 months straight? How do you accidentally have an affair with your boyfriend's roommate twice a week for half a year? Her text started out apologetic but got progressively more desperate. First it was, "I'm so sorry, can we please talk?" Then it became, "You're not even giving me a chance to explain." By the end she was sending me paragraphs about how we could work through this and how much she loved me. The cognitive dissonance was incredible. The really messed up part that I found out later. Remember how I mentioned things moving around the apartment? Turns out they were using MY beds sometimes when Jake's room got too hot from his broken AC. Sarah admitted this in one of her text walls. They were screwing in my bed, then making it afterward so I wouldn't notice. I threw out my mattress and bought a new one that same day. Couldn't stand the thought of sleeping where they'd been together. Even threw out my pillows and sheets. Basically replaced everything in my bedroom. Cost me like $800, but it was worth it for my peace of mind. Jake moved out completely, but not before I found out more details that made everything worse. My neighbor Mrs. Chun, bless her soul, came over to check on me after she noticed Jake moving his stuff out. She's this sweet old lady who lives next door and always bakes cookies for the building. Mrs. Chun mentioned she'd seen Sarah coming over for months, during the day while I was at work. She thought it was sweet that I had such a caring girlfriend who'd come clean my apartment and take care of things while I was busy. She even commented on how Sarah always looked glowing and happy when she'd leave in the afternoons. I was not having my apartment cleaned. My apartment was being used as a cheating den. Jake left his laptop behind in his rush to move out, and like an idiot, I looked through it. Found their text conversations going back to February, right around when this all started. The stuff they wrote about me made me physically sick. They had this whole running joke about how clueless I was. Jake sent messages like, "He still doesn't suspect anything, LOL." And Sarah would respond with stuff like, "I know, right? He's so oblivious." They called me Detective Dumbass in one conversation because I'd asked Sarah why she seemed tired after her study sessions. Sarah even sent him pictures of herself in my bathroom. Selfies in my shower, poses in my bedroom while I was at work. It was like they were getting off on the deception as much as the sex itself. One conversation from April really got to me. Sarah was complaining about having to have sex with me to keep up appearances, and Jake was telling her she was such a good actress. Then they were joking about how I'd bought Sarah flowers for our anniversary while she was sleeping with him. I'm angrier now than I was when I first caught them. At least then I just felt hurt and betrayed. Reading those messages showed me they didn't just cheat. They actively enjoyed making me look like a fool. It was entertainment for them. Also changed the locks that weekend. Jake never gave me his key back, and I wasn't about to trust that he wouldn't try to come back for more stuff when I wasn't home. Found a new roommate through a friend of a friend. Guy named Marcus who seems decent enough. We had a long conversation about boundaries and expectations before he moved in. I was probably way too honest about the whole situation, but I needed to know he wasn't going to pull the same crap. Update 2. Okay, this is probably my final update unless something crazy happens. It's been 2 months since everything went down, and I thought I was finally moving on. Then last weekend happened. Sarah showed up at my apartment Saturday morning. Apparently my blocking her number wasn't enough of a hint. I was having coffee with Marcus when she started pounding on the door. Marcus looked at me like, should I answer it? And I just shook my head. She kept knocking for like 10 minutes, calling my name through the door. Finally I opened it because I was worried the neighbors would complain. She looked rough, like she hadn't been sleeping much. Dark circles under her eyes, hair stringy, wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. Not at all like the put-together person I used to know. Started this whole speech about how she made a mistake and wanted to work things out. How she'd been in therapy and realized how much she'd hurt me. How Jake was just a momentary lapse in judgment that got out of hand. Here's the kicker, she's pregnant. Says it's mine, wants to rebuild our family together. Did some quick math in my head and yeah, the timing could work from before I caught them. We'd had sex maybe 3 times in the month before everything blew up, which should have been another red flag that I missed. But then again, who knows what else she was lying about. For all I know, she could have been sleeping with other people too. The woman I thought I knew apparently never existed. I told her I'd need a paternity test and she got real defensive real quick. Started crying again, saying I should trust her after everything we'd been through. The irony was not lost on me. She cheated on me for 6 months with my best friend. But I should trust her about the paternity of her baby? She tried to guilt-trip me about abandoning my child. But I stood firm. Told her if it was mine, I'd step up and be a father. But we were done as a couple. That I'd need proof before I took any responsibility. She left after I told her I needed time to think, but not before dropping another bomb. Jake apparently ghosted her right after I kicked him out. Guess their true love wasn't so true after all. She seemed genuinely shocked that he wasn't interested in a relationship once their sneaking around games were over. According to Sarah, Jake told her he wasn't ready for anything serious and blocked her number 2. So much for all those romantic texts I read about how perfect they were together. Turns out he was just using her for easy sex, same as she was using both of us. I've been talking to a lawyer just in case about the pregnancy situation. Even if the kid is mine, I don't think I can trust Sarah enough to co-parent effectively. My lawyer says I can demand a paternity test and work out custody arrangements without having to reconcile with her. Been going to therapy too, which helps more than I expected. My therapist says what I went through was a form of psychological abuse, the gaslighting, the lies, the manipulation. Learned a lot about my own boundaries and red flags I ignored. Apparently I have a pattern of being too trusting and not advocating for myself enough. Probably won't be dating for a while. The thought of getting close to someone again makes me anxious. What if I'm just as clueless the next time? What if I miss all the signs again? Marcus has been cool about everything. He's going through his own breakup, so we've been like therapy buddies, talking through our respective relationship disasters. It's nice having someone around who gets it. Final update. Well, this is it. The paternity test came back last week. Kid isn't mine. Sarah tried calling me crying when she got the results, but I didn't pick up. She left this voicemail saying she was sure it was mine, and how sorry she was. Said she must have gotten the timing confused. My therapist says not to respond, and I think that's the right call. I saved the voicemail though, just in case. My lawyer says it's good to have documentation of everything in case she tries to cause problems later. Found out through mutual friends that she's been trying to get back with Jake, but he wants nothing to do with her or the baby. Our friend Tom told me Jake's been telling people that Sarah's crazy and trying to trap him with a baby that might not even be his. Classy guy. Apparently he's seeing someone new already, a girl from his gym. The whole thing is just sad at this point. Sarah burned her relationship with me. Jake used her and dumped her. And now she's pregnant and alone. Part of me feels bad for her. But mostly I'm just relieved I don't have to deal with any of it. I'm doing better. Got a new roommate who's actually decent. Been hitting the gym regularly. Picked up some hobbies I dropped when I was with Sarah. Started learning guitar and joined a hiking group. Keeping busy helps. Still have trust issues, but I'm working on them. My therapist says it's normal and that healing takes time. Some days are better than others. I don't think about Sarah and Jake as much as I used to, which feels like progress. The apartment feels like mine again. Rearranged all the furniture, painted the living room, got some new art for the walls. It's like I'm reclaiming the space they violated. That's probably the best way I can describe moving forward, reclaiming my life piece by piece. To everyone who messaged me support, thank you. This community really helped me get through the worst of it. For anyone going through something similar, it does get easier. Takes time, but it gets easier. Trust your gut if something feels off. Don't ignore red flags like I did. And remember that someone's actions show you who they really are, not their words or excuses. The apartment feels like home again. That's probably the best way I can describe where I'm at now.